Okay, I mentioned before to a few people that I was going to do this video, and now I'm finally getting around to it. Um, I had mentioned that I was going to do a video on my personal thoughts about the Pagan Path. First of all, I will say that it's probably true when people tend to say that paganism is an umbrella term and can mean many things to many different people. It's probably very true. Many will say that it's an earthbound or nature worshipping religion, which that tends to be the case, just for a lot of people, including me to some degree. Many will say it's any religion that is not Abrahamic, meaning Jew, Muslim, Christian. And then there is people like me, who don't seem to be a lot lately, I don't know why, but Google by the actual Latin definition of paganist, basically somebody who lives in the country. And why I go back to that term is because, well, one, it is the original definition, and two, it kind of makes sense when you go back to the whole earthbound thing, worshipping nature or living within it. I think that's why people might use that term for anybody who does a nature worshipping religion. Going back to the ancient times when people used to do it. And of course, people living out in the country and around nature and all that other stuff. So to me, that would just make sense. I can't really use the idea of polytheism, which is many gods, because it's wrong to me, because going back to the definition, it had nothing to do with God. It really has nothing to do with religion, the true term pagan, but I can see why people might use that to describe nature worshipping more than just somebody who is a hard polytheist. I believe Kemetic paganism, or some people actually do Kemetic Wicca. Kemet was the ancient name of Egypt. That's what they actually called their country. And I believe the actual belief is monolatry, which is basically that, as far as I know, is the idea that all gods kind of come from this one source. I think to some degree it probably can be considered soft polytheism, or maybe even inclusive monotheism. So that's another reason why polytheism is not another word for paganism, or vice versa. I believe I found out about Wicca, I want to say I was about 15, 16 years old, and it really appealed to me. Now, I'm very, very new to the Pagan Path. New and looking to perform rituals or getting into the holidays. I'm not really new, I would say even before I found out what Wicca was or even heard of it. I'm not really new to a lot of the beliefs, but I'm this year going to be new to some of the practices. As I got older, certain things didn't make sense to me. The idea of one God, well, I do believe in one God, but one God that is just male or an old man, or as some people refer to, the Sky Daddy, or the man with the white beard. Yeah, if you want to say God that way, that's great, but the idea that the female half is missing in a lot of the Abrahamic or mainstream religions. Just doesn't make sense to me. The idea that you would go to hell because you worship the wrong God or you call God by the wrong name, even though you worship a creator, that you would burn in this place of eternal torture for something as simple as that. But a person who does a heinous crime, as long as they're a Christian or in some cases maybe a Muslim or so on, but it's usually within the Abrahamic tradition, that they would go to heaven. Just didn't make sense to me. Sexuality was another thing too. It just doesn't bother me what people are. If you're gay, pansexual, straight, whatever. I mean, how is it God makes everything, but then something else is of the devil? Then again, how does any being created by God actually have that much power? Just like the whole fallen angel and battle against heaven thing. I can see the point. I'm going to say this now, I really don't actually believe in the devil. But if he was given free will, I can see that point. But if he was the only one, how did he gain an army? I mean, how would they have the free will to even go against God to begin with? There's just so many, contradictions there. Just like the idea that no angel, and as far as I know, both regular and fallen, have never been human. Yet the devil was able to commit a homosexual act with Adam. How do you do that if you're not human? You kind of have to be an immortal, physical body to have a gender. You see where I'm going here? Now, I'm not saying this about all Christians or any religion. I mean, there's normal people in Christianity, and there's whacked up people in paganism, and etc., etc. Just going on. It's really up to the individual. But as far as I'm concerned, certain teachings just don't make sense to me. And I understand not everyone goes by these, and that's fine, but it's just not my path. Now, I haven't given up things completely. I still view Christ as a deity. I have not given that up, and I won't, no matter what a Christian, a Wiccan, or any other kind of religion says. That's my right. It's my choice. But as I started exploring, I found out, a lot of things have been just taken from paganism and twisted. The whole idea of Mary, I'm not really sure about. A lot of this Our Lady stuff was taken from pagan goddesses. I'm pretty sure Isis, a very popular goddess in Egyptian mythology, or going back to what I said before, Kemet, was often referred to as the Queen of Heaven. So there you go. Saint Bridget, who is an Irish goddess, was the goddess Bridget in Celtic mythology. But what really gets to me and ticks me, and a lot of other new pagans, maybe even some knowledgeable Christians and older pagans, is the devil and hell. Because, for one, I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I believe it's Scandinavian. There's this Norse or Scandinavian. I can't remember what they consider it, but I think it's, it doesn't really matter. But I think they more or less go by Norse. There's a Norse goddess called Hel, or it's spelled Hel. And she's the goddess of death or the underworld, something like that. And she's supposed to be half corpse. Well, that is where they got the name Hel, Hell. And the devil, as most people picture him, is mainly, as far as I know, taken from Pan, who is a Greek god of fertility. I believe he's like fertility forest god. And he's like a little short dude, as far as I know, with goat legs and little tiny horns. And this little goat dude is basically who they transformed into the horrifying devil. I mean, yeah, I can get past the Mary and Jesus thing. I mean, their lives are similar to pagan gods, but who's to say that just because God showed up in Israel doesn't mean he or she didn't need to show up in other parts of the world? And of course, you would go by what those people needed. If you're in India, it would make sense that he was Krishna and went by Indian names and how their customs were, just like with the Jews in Israel and all those other countries. But the devil is a mixture of gods who really didn't have anything to do with evil to begin with, so that's why I don't believe in that. And I don't believe in something that has as much power as God almost, but you're still supposed to notice that God is the all-powerful. I'm confusing myself now, I think, because it's just confusing, because it makes no sense. I respect everybody's beliefs, but the devil just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe if there is an angel, Lucifer. No, first of all, I almost forgot. Lucifer was the Roman god of light. I mean, if he made a son that was named after him, and there is both a god and an angel named Lucifer, I can see the idea of rebellion. That may be true, but I just don't think it's an all-evil being as people make it out to be that makes people do evil, if it does exist. As far as theism goes, my belief in a deity, I don't know if I call myself monotheistic. If you watch my other videos, I explain the terms of different theism. Monotheism is the belief in one God. I do believe in one almighty God, like divine source. But I wouldn't pray to just one God, or wouldn't learn about just one God, or think I'm not going to get to a good place when I die because I worship this God or that God. It just doesn't matter to me. I view that God is everything. It must be all of its creation. I mean, first of all, the Bible itself pretty much claims man was God's last creation. By that I mean both man and woman, human. So, what did God look like before man? I mean, animals were here years and years before humans arrived on this planet or were created out of the dirt, whatever you believe in how we got here or how God made us. So, again, with the idea of why God only looks like a man, I mean, I couldn't understand why you wouldn't look like a woman either, really. Why is it bad when certain religions take Hinduism with Ganesh, an elephant headed god, worship those gods? Why is it bad? Why is it wrong to see God as an animal when he technically created animals first? So before he made people, what did God look like? If God is supposed to look like, that man on the cloud with the white beard thing, well, what did he look like before people came around? My opinion on that. I'm curious about, when people say it's wrong and insulting to God to see him as an animal. So, yeah, I think God is everything he or she, or, she creates, and way beyond that. So it's kind of a form of pantheism. I view God in nature and the universe, but that God also extends beyond it. And monolatry, that all the gods basically come from one divine source. I'm not totally sure if I would call myself a Wiccan or even a new Wiccan, because I'm still exploring the past, but Wicca seems to be the closest. I will probably go on calling myself a neo-pagan, an eclectic neo-pagan, basically, or just eclectic pagan. And continue to go down that path, meaning that I don't follow one path. But I will say Wicca will be the closest that I follow. At least most of the Wiccan teachings, such as the Reed, the idea of the Summerland and reincarnation. I'm still exploring pantheons. I know people say you can't mix and match. One of the reasons I looked into Wicca is because despite people who say that you can only worship the Lord and Lady in duality or dual theism, most Wiccans are open to the idea, and most use different pantheons. But some still get, well, you can't worship both the Greek and the Egyptian. Some are like that, some just don't care. So that's one of the other reasons I would lean more towards Wicca than anything else. Wicca and the Sanatana Dharma, or Hinduism, a lot of people consider that somewhat of a pagan path. Even though they use mostly Indian gods, it's not restricted to just those. You don't get kicked out of Hinduism because you worship Allah or whatever else, as far as I know. And I like the idea that a lot of Hinduism teaches that we are a part of God. And, a lot who believe that knowledge is sometimes better than prayer or even helping others, because serving others is serving God. And gaining knowledge is getting closer to God. So Wicca and Hinduism, or the Dharma, is probably the two I lean on the most. For those reasons, especially the open theology. Because a lot of other pagan religions are more to, more or less go by the country they're created in. Um, like, I'm not totally sure how strict the Kemetic religion is, but it mainly revolves solely around the Egyptian pantheon. Um, True, I may be pronouncing that wrong, I think is more Germanic. So, again, I'm basically an eclectic pagan. I'm either what you would consider a panentheist, an inclusive monotheist, maybe a soft polytheist, or someone who believes in monolatry. And that is my thoughts on paganism, where I'm headed towards in my past. So feel free to ask any questions or leave comments, and I'll see you later.